Most beautiful thing they've ever seen. They love it. I mean, they're farmers. They love doing it. They don't know how to do anything else, but they don't want to do anything else.
China is already making clear the power it holds by stopping its purchase of American soybeans.
Our farmers are probably going to need some financial assistance this year, and a lot of the revenue coming in off the tariffs.
The crisis began not in Washington and not in Beijing, but in the quiet farmlands of America's heartland. For decades, China was the #1 buyer of U.S. soybeans, purchasing more than half of all exports, fueling billions of dollars in trade each year. But this season, something extraordinary happened. China has not bought a single cargo of American soybeans. According to Reuters, Beijing has made it clear that purchases will only resume if the United States removes tariffs that it considers unreasonable. At the same time, the Financial Times confirmed that U.S. exporters are staring at an empty order book. No soybean contracts, no forward bookings, at a moment when farmers are bringing in one of the largest harvests in years. Farmers are sounding the alarm, prices are plunging, storage bins are filling, and credit lines are tightening. For many, the shock is worse than the 1980s farm crisis.
China is already making clear the power it holds by stopping its purchase of American soybeans. Soybean farmers here are now suffering economically like they haven't in decades.
This is more than just a market shift. It's a direct clash of superpowers, and America's farmers, caught in the middle, are paying the price. Before we continue, if you're new here, please subscribe to help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Your support means a lot. China's suspension of soybean imports is not an isolated event. It is the culmination of years of escalating trade tensions. Bloomberg notes that trade wars have reshaped global agriculture, with Beijing redirecting purchases to Brazil and Argentina to secure long-term food security. Reuters reporting confirms that Washington's tariffs on Chinese goods were met with equal force. China deliberately targeted agriculture, the political backbone of Trump's base.
After the president put sweeping tariffs on Chinese goods, Beijing responded in part by halting all American soybean purchases.
The consequences are devastating. U.S. farm exports to China were once worth more than $12 billion annually. Today, that figure has collapsed. Farmers who once relied on stable contracts are instead staring at uncertainty. Meanwhile, the cost of production is soaring. Fertilizer, fuel, and equipment are all more expensive, while the value of crops has fallen below break-even.
Right now, Right now, we're below the cost of production.
You're losing money.
We're losing money.
Communities across the Midwest are beginning to unravel. In Nebraska, Iowa, and Illinois, farm union meetings sound more like crisis gatherings, and politically, the backlash is intensifying. Farmers who once backed Trump now question whether the promise of short-term pain for long-term gain was worth it. But for Washington, the message from Beijing is blunt. If you want us to buy soybeans, remove the tariffs. Until then, America's most iconic crop is left without its biggest customer. The collapse of U.S.-China agricultural trade has been swift and brutal. This year, soybean shipments from the U.S. to China are at record lows. The Financial Times reports that traders have confirmed zero long-term bookings for American soybeans this harvest season. Instead, China has turned almost entirely to Brazil, paying higher prices just to secure supply chains free from political interference.
This is the worst time since the 80s, and I was farming in the 80s, where farmers were going out of business. Farm foreclosures are on the rise, farm suicides.
The crisis is deepened by frozen U.S. federal programs. According to Reuters, more than 30,000 contracts for agricultural support have been delayed or canceled, leaving farmers stranded after already making costly investments. Trump himself has acknowledged the pain, promising that farmers will be in great shape soon. But in towns like Kennard, Nebraska, patience is wearing thin.
We voted because he was going to help the farmers, and now it's just hurting us like crazy.
Agriculture is our foundation here in Nebraska and many states in the Midwest.
Farmers are resilient. They are used to boom and bust cycles. But when the global market itself is turned off like a switch, resilience isn't enough. The seeds of this crisis were sown in April 2025 when Trump announced sweeping tariffs on Chinese imports, declaring it the day American industry was reborn.
April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn.
China retaliated immediately, halting all soybean purchases. The strategy was not new. During the first Trump administration, China also targeted U.S. agriculture, forcing Washington to deploy $23 billion in emergency subsidies under the Market Facilitation Program. But this time, farmers argue the administration is less responsive.
Every time the president says tariffs, the markets go down and countries begin to run away from American agriculture.
Meanwhile, China has used the trade war to diversify supply. Reuters reported that Chinese state firms locked in deals with Brazil, cutting the U.S. out of contracts worth billions. What was once leverage for Washington is now leverage for Beijing. Today, the crisis is tangible. Farmers across the Midwest report rising bankruptcies, unpaid loans, and silent phone lines from once reliable Chinese buyers.
This is a bad time in this country for American agriculture and America's farmers. The president's tariffs are putting farmers out of business.
According to the USDA, net farm income could fall by more than $30 billion this year alone, driven largely by collapsing exports. Local banks are pulling back, equipment dealers report declining sales, and entire rural communities face ripple effects. The Trump administration insists relief is coming through the Big Beautiful Bill, which allocates $56 billion in farm assistance over 10 years. But those funds do not start until next year. Farmers argue they cannot wait. This deepens the sense that the system is rigged, not only against small farmers, but also against minority farmers who feel excluded from relief. The political consequences are immediate. In Nebraska, Iowa, and across the Midwest, farmers are openly questioning their loyalty to Trump. The economy of rural America is built on agriculture, and without stable exports, the base crumbles. Bankruptcy filings are at their highest in decades. Rural banks face lawsuits, with some lenders accused of predatory practices as they call in debts. At the same time, China is reshaping the global grain market. By strengthening ties with Brazil and Argentina, it is building a permanent alternative supply chain. That could leave the U.S. shut out long after tariffs are gone. There is a darker angle to this story: land itself. Investment firms are buying distressed farmland, treating it as an asset class rather than a livelihood. According to Reuters, funds now control millions of acres, often outbidding family farmers. This means that as family farms fail, Wall Street gains. The farmland remains productive, but the farmers are replaced. In other words, the bailout game strengthens the big players, while the small and vulnerable disappear. The choices now are stark. Congress is debating new bailout packages, but even supporters admit the funds will likely flow to large operations. China has made clear its condition: lift tariffs or expect no soybean orders. For some, that passion will not be enough. Census data already shows a 10% decline in U.S. farms over the past 5 years. Without decisive action, that decline could accelerate. The U.S.-China standoff may not only decide the next election, it may decide whether the American family farm remains more than just a nostalgic idea.